Hello, Pisces. This is your personal month forecast for November of 2023. I'm so excited to get to this forecast because you are my last one to do. Do you mind being last? I want to ask you that. If you have any answer, reply in the comments because I'm thinking, I don't know if it actually matters. Maybe I'm kind of being a typical Virgo and overthinking these types of, mundane details. But yeah, I just feel like it's kind of unfair that you have to be last all the time. So I'm thinking maybe I could like alternate and do like the reverse order every other month or something. But maybe it's best if you're last. Maybe you have more patience than other signs like Aries. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But anyway, let's talk about what to expect for you for this month. So first of all, we're coming into this month coming out of eclipse season. Basically, all of October was like occupied by that eclipse season, right? And we just had that full moon lunar eclipse on October 28th at 5 degrees Taurus, being opposing the sun at 5 degrees Scorpio. And as we start out the month, the focus is definitely still very much on Scorpio, right? We've got Sun, Mercury, and Mars all in Scorpio. So for you, this is actually pretty cool. For every sign, we've all been handling a lot of intensity, right? With that eclipse season. But, you are Pisces. You are about as adaptable as it gets, right? If any sign can handle these changes and kind of conform and twist around and surrender to the randomness of the universe, you would be the one to do it. So, I understand if there has been a lot of pressure on you lately and a lot of stress, but at the same time, hopefully you've been, using that Piscean adaptability to really embrace and really thrive in the midst of these changes. I do think that is likely as well as we start out this month because, again, we've got Sun, Mercury, and Mars in Scorpio. That's an energy that you can handle. It's a fellow water sign, right? Scorpio has a lot in common with Pisces. And whatever placements you have in Pisces are being trined by Sun, Mercury, and Mars. They were being trined by those planets not only in the end of October, but they still are in early November as well. So it's actually a pretty strong start of the month for you, which is kind of interesting. By now I've done all the signs and I've seen how each one is kind of doing, and I do think you are one of the signs that's kind of better off as we start out this month, if that makes sense. So that's good. I hope you are well. Let's see, what can we talk about? So I talked about those trines from Sun, Mercury, and Mars in Scorpio. Another way of looking at it would be to say that Sun, Mercury, and Mars are all transiting in your ninth house, right? So that's showing that as we start out this month, you are focusing a lot on higher learning, asking those bigger questions. You are kind of famous for that, for thinking outside the box and things like that. But now more than ever, you may be spending more time in whatever place it is that you go to ask the higher questions and learn about the very nature of your reality. Wherever that is for you, I don't care where it is. Wherever that is for you, you may be spending more time there as we start out this month. And briefly, I did want to mention Venus as well. So Venus is in Virgo, your opposing sign, right? And this has, multiple meanings. Venus is in your seventh house. So that's showing that you're really enjoying, or likely enjoying, at least, that's what's indicated by this. As we start the month, there is increased enjoyment and pleasure in your relationships, in your partnerships. So, definitely any kind of romantic relationship, that's what I'm talking about, but also any kind of like best friend scenario, any kind of like business partnership, any strong, relations that you have like that. You may be just enjoying those people more, enjoying those relationship dynamics more. Those people may just come across like more charismatic for whatever reason. Maybe they are more like optimistic lately, or they're having more success lately than normal. Of course it depends on a whole bunch of other factors, but that's generally what's implied by Venus and Virgo. A different way of looking at it would be to say that Venus is as far away from your sign as possible. So, wherever Venus goes, she brings, abundance and pleasure and desire. She makes things easy and fun for us, right? And having that type of energy so far away from you can be difficult. You are kind of struggling to connect with that energy. The main way that you can connect with that, again, is through those people in your life. So kind of vicariously in a way. But as for like experiencing that yourself in a more individualistic way, that may be a little bit more difficult as we start out this month. That will change though in a couple of weeks. Venus will change signs. Okay, but I wanted to give you some key dates of major changes that will be affecting you this month. So the first one is for Saturday, November 4th of course, 2023. This is the day where Saturn turns direct. And for you, this is a big deal because Saturn has been transiting your sign since March of this year. So you're kind of in the hot seat, so to speak, and really this is a roughly 2.5 year transit, Saturn being in your sign. So I hate to break it to you, but Saturn being in your sign from March of 2023 to I believe about halfway through 2025. This is indicating that there's an increased need for you to be responsible, diligent. Sometimes, depending on the placement and the situation, Saturn, in your own sign, crossing your placements, can indicate weight loss, and sometimes that can be good. It could indicate you being maybe having like a strict regimen or something, and you may be losing some pounds. Maybe that was your intention, but it could also be maybe because of disease or something. You may be unwell, losing that kind of weight. So it kind of just depends, but the common thread is Saturn brings that like restriction and heavy energy. So I don't want to get too caught up in that because that's not what this video is about. But the reason why I am talking about that is because Saturn turning direct basically just means that it's coming back online. It's going to affect all of us in a more direct way, but especially you since it's in your sign. So yes, that is not the most fun or exciting news to hear by any means, but it's not all bad. As long as you're being responsible and mature, you're taking ownership of yourself, maybe applying a bit of discipline, using your discernment, Saturn will actually reward you. Okay. And now is, the best that now is, now more than ever. Sorry, I'm struggling here. Now is the best time to understand that, basically, with Saturn transiting your sign. Because a different way of putting it is, you're not always necessarily the best energy for this. This doesn't always come naturally to you. You are more, adaptable, and you flow with everything. Sometimes having structure can be difficult for you. So just give yourself time, be patient with yourself. And I will say that Saturn energy, it is difficult. It is, crushingly difficult at times, and it's very heavy, but it is fair and it is straightforward. So yes, this may be difficult, but you probably know what it is that you need to do. Where do you need to be a leader? Where do you need to stand up for yourself or have stricter boundaries with yourself, etc.? What's right for you, right? You know what you need to do. So just use common sense. Don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself time, okay? And just do your best. That's all that Saturn is asking. Okay, jumping forward to Wednesday, November 8th. This is the day where Venus leaves Virgo and enters Libra. This, I'm not particularly excited about for you. I mean, like I said, there's kind of pros and cons to having Venus, opposing you. And then now Venus is not so much opposing you. Now it's in your 8th house. So rather than, having that abundance and pleasure in your direct relationships, now it's more affecting your commitments, your obligations, your investments, right? Much of that is financial, bank accounts, credit cards, debts, inheritance, taxes. There could be some kind of pleasure, desire, abundance there. But it's not just financial. How are you supporting yourself? Where are you investing your time, your energy, your emotion, your commitments, obligations with other people? All of those areas, it is kind of heavy stuff, but Venus is shining a light there. It's bringing some pleasure and abundance to that part of your life. So that is, potentially something to be excited about as far as that goes. Also, generally speaking, Venus is no longer in fall anymore. Venus in Virgo, it's kind of it's a difficult placement. So now Venus is in Libra. That's kind of objectively an easier transit for all of us, including you for sure. Okay, going ahead 2 days to Friday, November 10th, Mercury leaves Scorpio and enters Sagittarius. And you'll notice that Mercury, Mars, and the Sun have all been kind of hanging out together. They've been buddies. They're in the same area. They've all been in Scorpio. Now, one by one, they're all going to leave Scorpio and enter Sagittarius. So this will, of course, gradually change the dynamic throughout the month. Mercury is just the first to do so. So Mercury is leaving Scorpio, entering Sagittarius. In other words, Mercury is leaving your 9th house, entering your 10th house. So this is very powerful. 10th house is the top of your chart. It's the most public part of the chart. It has to do with your reputation and career. So Mercury entering that sign basically just means that you are busier. You're maybe thinking more, learning more, communicating more in the realm of your career in public. You're chatting more, learning more. Maybe you're more curious. Maybe you're busier. There usually is busyness wherever Mercury goes as well. Excuse me. I also want to mention too, wherever your placements are in Pisces, as these planets enter Sagittarius, they're going to start squaring those Pisces placements. So that can bring about a little bit of tension, anxiety, restlessness, but also, it's just provoking you to take action or make some kind of change. All right. So Mercury entering Sagittarius just gives you a little bit of that tension or a little bit of that desire to make change, but that will increase throughout the month. So that's not really good or bad necessarily. It just depends on how you look at it. Monday, November 13th, there is a new moon at 20 degrees Scorpio. So we're not totally done with these Scorpio energies yet. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. We're not done with these Scorpio energies yet. And this, like I said, Scorpio is your fellow, water sign. It's an energy that's easy for you to deal with. Probably, this is easier for you than most signs, I would say. Scorpio is such a heavy energy. It's so intense and emotional, but you can handle that. You know how to work that. So, yeah. And especially if you have placements around 20 degrees Pisces, they will be trined by this new moon at 20 degrees Scorpio. So this could be, very revitalizing for you. It's empowering you. You're in your element at this time. Specifically, though, new moons are a new beginning, just like they sound like. Not necessarily the best time for taking some kind of huge action or risk necessarily. This is a humble new beginning. It's a quiet new beginning. This is the time to plant that seed. And I always say, we could all probably benefit from being more aware of our intentions all the time, but especially on a new moon. This is a time where, reevaluate what are your intentions, what are your goals, what would you like to carry out over the next few days, weeks, months, etc., even years if you want to. I would really encourage you to look over any and all intentions, but specifically this new moon is in your 9th house. So what are your intentions regarding your higher learning, your understanding of the cosmos, of metaphysics and things like that? Do you have any curiosity there? Is there anything in particular you'd like to learn? Would you like to be more open, or maybe you actually don't need to be more open? Maybe you need to be more strong and more firm with what you already believe. Do your beliefs work for you? These are the types of questions I would encourage you to think about on and around this new moon at 20 degrees Scorpio on the 13th of November. Okay, and then jumping forward to November 22nd, this is the first day of Sagittarius season. This is the day where the sun leaves Scorpio and enters Sagittarius. So this is, holiday vibes. It's festive vibes moving forward. It's generally a lot of fun for everyone, I think. You can work with this energy fairly well. Pisces and Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter, so both have that in common. So in other words, this is a time of higher learning and being open and expressive and adventurous, and you tend to do pretty well with all that. So you can handle it in that type of way. However, Sun is leaving Scorpio. You're not in that water season anymore. You'll see less and less of a water focus in the astrology here. So less of that heavy emotion. And so, increasingly you may feel slightly out of your element compared to the beginning of the month. Also, this is kind of exacerbated by the fact that as these planets are transiting through Sagittarius, they are, I think I said this earlier, they're going to start squaring whatever placements you have in Pisces. So again, yes, that can be stressful or anxious, but it doesn't have to be. This may inspire you to take some kind of change, take some kind of action in your life. And then last thing I want to say is, again, Sagittarius is your 10th house. So it just shows that you're more visible in public right now. At your work, you're more visible. Others notice you, they see you, you're coming across more strongly at work and in public. So I would say, take advantage of that if you'd like. Use your own discernment, of course, but just be aware that you've got more of a kind of public profile. So I do think generally that is more powerful, but you may also want to be mindful of that as well, because there is a certain level of responsibility that comes from that. So just a heads up. Friday, November 24th, this is the day where Mars leaves Scorpio and enters Sagittarius. So just look now, the focus has completely shifted from Scorpio to Sagittarius. We are fully in Sagittarius season with, not one, not two, but three placements or planets, if you can call them that, all in Sagittarius. So again, now the focus has just so much shifted toward your public life, your career, your reputation. You are energized in this area. You're learning more. You're communicating more in that area. You may be much more driven. You're more goal oriented in that area. And I do want to mention Mars can be a double-edged sword. There may be a bit of competitiveness or edginess, a little bit of conflict in your career and public life as well. But that's just a small part of it. So don't worry too much about that. Generally speaking, you're coming across strong and confident and warm in public right now. So yeah, again, take advantage of that. You're seen as strong right now. This is kind of culmination energy for you. Yes, it can be kind of edgy or, you may feel a bit restless, but that's what's pushing you to make some kind of change, be a bit ambitious at this time. All right. Okay, that pretty much sums it up. And then moving forward to Monday, November 27th, this is the last thing I want to cover for this forecast. This is the full moon that will happen at 4 degrees Gemini. This one is particularly crazy for you, okay? How do I put this? For anyone and everyone, this is a scattered and crazy full moon, right? Because it's in Gemini, it's opposing the sun in Sagittarius. But for you especially, it's going to be chaotic and scattered. Why do I say that? The reason why is because both the moon in Gemini as well as the sun in Sagittarius, they are both squaring your placements in Pisces. Specifically, if you have placements around 4 degrees Pisces, they're going to be directly squared. They'll form a T-square with this full moon. So anywhere you have placements in Pisces, but especially around 4 degrees, you are kind of, you're caught in the middle. You may be forced to compromise or choose between two different forks. Sorry about that. Two different forks in the road, two different options, two different choices. Or, there may be multiple directions you can go. It's a crossroads. And also, again, there's just so much scattered energy at this time. Gemini is multifaceted, scattered energy. So is Sagittarius. And so are you as well, but all in, 3 completely different ways. And we're combining all of that here today with this full moon. So you might feel crazy. You might feel completely chaotic and, there's just so much going on. What do I even focus on first? To some extent, you are a pro at this, though, as well. You're a pro at, I don't even know how to put it, because honestly, I don't know how you do it exactly. Like, you're a pro at being multifaceted and dynamic, and in doing so, I almost want to say you're multitasking, but I don't think that's necessarily the right word for it. It's like you're doing multiple things simultaneously, almost like you're kind of like on a higher dimension or something. Does that make sense? So use that, flaunt that. This is the time for using those strengths. Yes, it can be chaotic. There may just seem like, there's an overwhelming of stimuli right now. But again, what better sign to handle that than you? You are a pro at managing multiple different energies at the same time. Does that make sense? Specifically, this is an opposition. Every full moon is an opposition, right? But for you specifically, this is an opposition between your 4th and 10th houses. Yes, 4th and 10th houses. So it's a clash between your work life, your reputation, versus your home life, your foundation. It's like the work-home balance, basically, work-life balance. You may feel kind of pulled both ways. There may be a lot of activity and drama, increased activity or changes in one or both areas, and they're pulling you different ways. So the answer, as always, is, moderation and balance. How can I honor both parts of my life? Depending on your free will and your placements and your chart, you may lean toward one or the other. Oh, I need to focus on my career right now, or I need to pull it in and focus on my home right now. It's up to you. What do you want? I think for most of us, it's going to be more so about a balance. How can I honor both? How can I do it all? You're Pisces. You want it all. You want all of it, right? So yeah, that's generally the focus. Could be chaotic. You don't have to be stressed. Just make some kind of change, take some kind of action, use your own discernment. remember, you still have Saturn in your sign. It is heavy, but it can be grounding, right? Give yourself time, take a break if you need to, go outside, right? Do whatever you need to, and just do your best. That's all I really have to say. Actually, last thing I have to say is just compare this chart to how different it was at the very beginning. In the beginning, we had so much of a focus on Scorpio. It was very heavy. And at the end, it's so much free flowing energy, 3 planets in Sagittarius, Venus in Libra. So, I mean, you may feel a little bit out of your element toward the end of the month compared to the beginning. But at the same time, with 3 planets in your 10th house, this is a very powerful time for you. So as we get into the month toward the end, it's like you increasingly become out of your element. But I think that's actually necessary to push you to becoming more ambitious and actually more of a leader, if that makes sense. If everything was just super comfortable and cozy and everything was fine and acceptable, then there would be no need to be strong or be a leader, right? So I think that's increasingly what you're dealing with as we go through November, basically. Okay, so I really hope you have a good month. I hope anything I said was helpful or at least entertaining for you. But yeah, have a really great month. Good luck to you, and I'll talk to you later.